Welcome back to Echo Ridge and our second episode in our farm series. We're starting off by doing a little bit of exploration. I'm trying to be very careful to make sure I don't disturb any of this bleach stone because the last thing I need to do is add chlorine to our hydrogen mess. I've also knocked out advanced research capability because I want to get into advanced power regulation so we get access to the hydrogen generator. And to pull off what I want, I'm also going to need some of this automation down here as well. But all that research is going to come at a cost of water, and right now our only sources of clean water are here and here. Hence the reason we're doing some exploring. I did find another vent or geyser up here. I'm hoping it is a saltwater geyser. While I'm not looking forward to handling the heat, it would check two things off of the list. A, it would give us fresh water, and B, it would also give us salt, which we could crush to make sand. So we'll put the supercomputer right about here. Connect it with some power, and this time I'm not going to forget to put down a couple of doors to make this a laboratory, which will give the duplicates a speed buff on top of the lit workspace, because science buildings inside of a laboratory get an additional speed boost as well. I'm going to put both of our toilets on a priority of 6 so that we don't deal with duplicates peeing all over themselves, which brings me to the point of priorities. I'm leaving all the priorities flat for now, which sort of makes sense considering all the duplicates are sort of doing everything anyways, and we have plenty of duplicates that can do the hard digging to go around. I think it's also a good time to put down an electric grill. Only thing we're going to be cooking is pickled meal, which is just going to help keep it shelf stable for longer. Our electric grill's in. We'll put forever over on the meal ice. Once again, it doesn't change the quality of the food. It doesn't even increase the amount of calories, and this is one of the few recipes that doesn't. The only reason we do this is for the extra cycles of spoil time. Pickled meal takes 32 cycles to spoil, whereas meal ice by itself only takes 8 cycles. I suppose another benefit of cooking your food is if there is any food poisoning germs on the meal ice, they'll be destroyed in the process of cooking it. Our Cycle 12 pod has a couple of options for us. Remember, we're only taking farmers and ranchers in this playthrough, and both these farmers and ranchers have 3 interests. But this Pei has bottomless stomach, and this Lindsay has 3 positive traits. So I think the answer is clear. We're going to take the rancher, decorator, and farmer. Eventually, Lindsay will be decorating the entire farm. Welcome to the farm, duplicate number 5, Belt-Fed Joe. That is probably going to be the last duplicate we grab for a little while because every single duplicate means more water will be going through this electrolyzer. So until we get our water situation stable, that is about it on the duplicate front. Our exploration over on the right side of the map has revealed an awkwardly placed oil reservoir in the middle of nowhere. We have a swampy biome below it. It looks like a geode here that sort of broke up the biomes as well. And while I didn't show you last episode because I wanted to leave the mystery there a little bit, remember we have an alternate pod location, but I can sort of show you exactly where we are in the map. And as you can see, the alternate pod location isn't so alternate at all, unless I've always just completely misunderstood what that trait meant. But the tooltip just says the printing pod didn't end up in the asteroid's exact center this time. I think it's time in our exploration to start digging down. For one, I want to get access to this water. I'm not looking forward to boring through this uranium ore. But for 2, I want to find some more vents and geysers. But in order to do that, I wanted to keep our carbon sink here, so I built our little pit here. It's already filled with carbon dioxide, so we don't have to worry about losing that sterile atmosphere. And now we can safely dig down. Although I don't think we have the digging to get through there yet. Once we do, though, I'm going to break in through here, install a pump, and pump all of this up to our small tank here. Hold on, I suppose I could dig from here instead. This might be a smarter method, and that way we'll be able to keep this area undisturbed. There we go, that'll give us a lot more materials and some more exploration. One positive about this planetoid start is that we've had such a large opening biome, and it has been pretty steady as far as temperature goes. I'm thinking about throwing Belt-Fed Joe into true farming. We really don't need any other skills, and having a farmer and a rancher earlier would be beneficial, especially considering I have to start planting more mealwood because we're down to 14,000 calories. And since everybody can do that farming, I am now going to start prioritizing things, so Belt-Fed Joe will do more farming and then eventually some ranching. Everybody else is still good because there's only one duplicate who can use the supercomputer, and there's only one duplicate that can use the electric grill. We've just completed the gas pump, which means I can install our temporary system up here. I'm going to use one gas pump, put it all the way back in the corner. I am going to need some refined metals to be able to build our automation, so we will grab the rock crusher. We'll put the rock crusher right here. Not that it makes a big world of difference, although adding a light here would help as well. We've also finished up all of our planter boxes for our 5 duplicants. This is probably going to be a little bit too much food, considering we still have so many mealwoods wild grown, but having a little bit of extra is not going to be too bad. And you may have noticed that I split them up in batches of 5, and that's because every single mealwood, once it's harvested, gives us 600 calories worth of meal ice. Well, it takes 3 cycles to grow that 600 calories, so each mealwood is giving us 200 calories per cycle. So our 5 planter pots is going to give us 1,000 calories per cycle, which is the exact amount that every single duplicant eats. With the rock crusher complete, I'm going to grab a little bit of this aluminum ore, not too much because I do not like using the rock crusher to make refined metal. So we'll start off with maybe 5 pieces. That'll give us 250 kilos worth of refined aluminum, which should be plenty. It looks like we also have almost a ton of salt already. In addition to the table salt, that'll give all of our duplicants +1 morale at the mess table with the little salt shakers. It'll also give us 100 kilos worth of sand. Remember the carbon dioxide geode that I found? Here's one of oxygen. 500 kilos worth of oxygen pressure. That's some popped eardrums. But at least in this case, you could breathe it and it wouldn't kill your colony. Of course, the stress reactions from the pop eardrums might. We've earned some more skill points, so that means we now have access to super hard digging. We'll give both Dullahan and Patrick Gordon that. Sulfur is going into field research, and Glenn is going into grilling too. And no, they're not getting hats, because the only hats that we're going to wear on this colony are farming and ranching hats. Another Stinky tried to slip into the farm, but they don't have any other interests. And I'm sorry, Stinky, you don't bring anything to the table, so you're staying as genetic ooze as well. I will grab some nice curative tablets, though. We finished the Atmos sensor, and we have our refined metal, so I think I'm going to put it, right here. And then we'll just tie it in, and once this is finished, I'll show you how it's going to work. But we will need this gas pipe to come down. I suppose there's no big reason that it needs to be down by the colony. So we'll just end up putting the hydrogen generator right here, connect the gas pipe to it, and we have 40 tons of aluminum ore, so this power run is not too bad. Plus, we have to power that gas pump anyways. Now, you may be wondering, why don't I just make a SPOM? Well, we don't have all the research for a SPOM yet, and it's going to be a little while until we do. We need to do more exploring. And doing it this way will allow the hydrogen generator to power our colony. Considering we have such a little power footprint, it'll work out just fine while we continue all of our exploration. This system is pretty simple. All that hydrogen naturally rises, and when it does, it's going to fill in this cavern here. And as long as there's a certain amount of gas pressure up here, I know everything up here is going to be hydrogen. So I'm going to say if it is above 1,000 grams, you can turn that gas pump on, in which it'll then feed this hydrogen generator with all that hydrogen. Now, all the hydrogen comes up here, and it does split right and left, so there's quite a bit over here. I'm just going to fill in this whole area, push the hydrogen down, and keep this ceiling sort of flat. Once I've got all the hydrogen out of here, by continuously building down, I'll then seal these doors, which will just increase the chances of all the hydrogen ending up over here. Now, the last thing we want is to make sure this hydrogen generator is just not burning all of the hydrogen for nothing. For instance, right now this battery is full, so we don't want this hydrogen generator running without some sort of automation, which is where our smart battery is going to come into play. Cycle 21 pod? No farming or ranching dupe, but we did get a nice snazzy suit. And I always go just alphabetical down the list, so Belt-Fed Joe is going to be the first well-dressed farmer in the colony. With the smart battery done, we'll put it right here, tie the generator in with the automation wire, and you'll notice we had the exact amount needed. I'd love to tell you that was on purpose. Look, I knew it was about 250 kilos. Okay, so I was off by 5 kilos. That's not too bad. That stinks because I was really confident on that one. So we will waste only the bare minimum of refined metal and get one more piece of aluminum. With the last wire in, we'll set this to 9060. So the battery will only send out a green signal to tell the hydrogen generator to turn on once it's lower than 60%. We can also get rid of this jumbo battery because it's not needed. And our manual generator has sort of built-in automation. The manual generators have a battery recharge threshold that tells the duplicants when they need to get on there and run. So if I lower this to say 25%, they're not going to run on the wheel until this battery is lower than 25%, which shouldn't happen because, well, we don't use a lot of power and we have a lot of hydrogen. Operation Push the Hydrogen Out is almost complete. By finishing this one strip here, this area will then be higher than this area, and since hydrogen is a lighter gas than oxygen, it will slowly start floating back up to here. I do hope we start using a little bit more hydrogen because our levels are getting kind of high. Or rather, the hydrogen gas pressure is starting to come down here to the colony, and if they get down to the mealwood, they'll stifle the crops. And then we starve and die. So we're going to build more area for the hydrogen to go into by knocking out that wall there and maybe digging out a little bit here. I might end up moving the gas pump up here, but we'll see. It's not a big deal for it being placed here either. Belt-fed Joe has just learned critter ranching, which means I think we're going to continue on the research front over here to ranching, and maybe we'll get started on hatches. Remember, we're going to be taming at least one ranch for every critter in the game, so we might as well start somewhere. In fact, I might start with the pips, because going from pips to pip omelets is pretty easy, and they can plant their own trees. One project I had forgotten to follow up on, how very unlike me, is this liquid pump down here so we can grab all this water. Go right up here, and I was debating for a second just to tie it in, but I'd rather fill in this tank so we can sort of see how much water we have at a glance. Another long power run, no big deal. And all of that water should be picked up shortly as well. Now that all the hydrogen is out of this room, well, most of it, we can continue exploring, and I want to find out what this is right here. And I suppose it's time to finish off the rest of the priorities, because our heart diggers have this on the errand list as number 44 and 43. So we'll do the whole building and digging. Up arrows. Patrick Gordon, what do you do? Oh, you're also a digger. Oh, this makes it really confusing. So Glenn is not a digger. Glenn is the cook. Maybe I should put their hats on temporarily, just so it's easier to discern. On second thought, no, this is a farm. You will dress like a farmer. Next up is our ranch, and I think this is going to be a perfect spot. In fact, we might even be able to dig over a little bit further. It has 2 arbor trees right now, but that's not quite enough. I'm going to have to dig up all of these as well, and that way the pips will do the natural planting. And for now, we'll put the critter drop off right here. And we'll also have to start hiding all the seeds around the colony. So I'm going to build one storage bin and have everybody go collect them all, because there are pips all over this biome. Of course, that might be the easier method. Instead of collecting all the seeds, just collect all the pips so they can't get access to the seeds. There's 2 down here. There's 2 more. There's number 5. Oh, there's number 6. Thought you can get away, did ya? And then the only seeds we'll have to grab out of here are the mealwood or anything else, such as the mirth leaf seeds as well. And then to make sure they don't plant the trees, but anywhere that we want, I'm going to put down some ladders at a priority of 0 using the priority 0 mod. If you don't use the priority 0 mod, you can just build the ladders and deconstruct them when you're done, but this will also work. I'll also have to dig up these plants here, and that way there are no other plants in the area that'll interfere with the pip planting. In fact, right behind this granite, we can see there's already an arbor tree growing, so now we'll just cancel 3 spaces away, and they'll plant another arbor tree right here, as long as they have the seeds. Now, it only takes 3 wild arbor trees to support an entire ranch of pips, but if you're gonna do it, you might as well do it with a full ranch. It just will give you more lumber and more ethanol later in the game. I'm not sure how many more arbor seeds are in this ranch right now, so I will drop a couple off. I added them to my resource list, so I can just click here, and I find another arbor acorn. I click the move to, and bring it right down here. We add our grooming station, and voila, we now have a completed pip ranch. I do have to research incubators and build probably 2 unpowered incubators to be able to support the pips, but then we're going to be able to start having pip omelets. And who doesn't like a nice pip omelet? While I'll wait for that system to finish up, we're going to do some creative digging and try to get down through here. Jetpack Dullahan has just skilled up, so we can put them into super duper hard digging, which means we'll be able to get through the obsidian. Now the trick's going to be digging in just the right spots so I don't unearth any of this slime, at least as much as we can. And it looks like I figured out a path right here. Now with the digging that we're doing up, I want to make sure that hydrogen doesn't head off in that direction. So I'm just going to put these doors back on auto. And while some hydrogen will end up slipping through the doors when the dupes come through, most of it will still end up over here. I'm disabling this grooming station with the hopes that most of them are still wild, because I was a little haphazard in my starting of ranching them. You have to wait until the arbor trees are grown and they have branches so the pips can eat, because otherwise, once the rancher starts grooming them and they become tame, well, then the pips can starve. So I need to wait to tame them until there's a couple branches. Oh, for the love of Pete, it's a hydrogen vent. What am I going to do with a hydrogen vent at 500 degrees at cycle 30? I'll tell you what, nothing. It's going to sit there for probably 2,000 cycles. The next vent we're going to go take a look at is all the way up here, and I think the dig path is going to be somewhere through here. And once again, I'm going to have to use some manual doors, perhaps in this location, to try to prevent as much hydrogen as we can from going up through this dig shaft. So in order to be able to store more hydrogen, I'm going to get up here and dig. So hopefully the levels will raise off of this ceiling here. And it looks like I did remember just in time, because none of these pips have ended up as tamed and they've lost all their grooming tags, which means they're now increasing in wildness instead of tameness. We have finished research on the incubators. Each incubator is going to require 200 kilos worth of refined metal. So I regret we have to go back to the rock crusher for 4 more pieces. I'm also going to increase the chances that our hydrogen ends up over here by sort of building it in on this side of the base. Now, the oxygen pressure will push itself down through these airflow tiles and then out, so we don't have to worry about suffocating ourselves. But the idea is that the hydrogen's only going to rise. Yeah, we're going to lose some of this hydrogen here as we start building through this shaft, but I'm not too concerned about it. We'll also deconstruct this electrolyzer and let this one provide oxygen for the colony. Which, by the way, we have finished pumping what water we could down here. We'll grab the rest of it that we can, and I will put a bottle emptier in our tank to dump it in here. Which means right now, this is all the water that we have. And why am I pumping the water that way? That is foolhardy. We've got good news from our dig shaft here. There was not only the one geyser here, but there's 2. Surely one of them is water. The digging is going very slow because there's no oxygen up here. In fact, it's just hydrogen. So they do a little bit of work and then they have to run all the way down to try to get some oxygen. And yes, I do know that we could do this thing and I could just highlight my mouse right over the yellow alert sign and we'd find out exactly what the geysers were. But where's the fun in that? Where's the sense of adventure? Where is all the oxygen? And for this colony being geoactive, I know we still have a lot of space to explore. I don't see a whole lot of vents and geysers. And so far it still says we have 16 unknown geysers to reveal. It is saying that we have found a saltwater geyser and an iron volcano. So if I had to guess, of course it also said there's a carbon dioxide vent, but if I had to guess, this is going to be the saltwater geyser and this will be an iron volcano. Naturally, we are starting to get the long commutes, probably made longer because they have to stop and, breathe. But I think it's about time we put in a fire pole going right down here. And then we'll leave this side open for expansion later. I've got one mirth leaf down. There's another one here. If I can get a mirth leaf, say here, and something other than mealwood, we can make a nice nature reserve for this center transportation shaft. Remember back in episode 1 where I talked about how the heat shouldn't be too much of a problem because this natural gas geyser would stifle itself? Well, the natural gas is down to 31 degrees and the whole chamber is filled at the 5 kilo mark, so this geyser is now overpressured. And all said and done, it didn't create too much heat. Oh, look at this Frankie. It's an actual digger farmer. The only bad thing is they have allergies, and allergies on a farm is probably not a great idea. But we have steady oxygen right now. No, I promised myself I was not going to get more dupes until we get more water. We'll take the Drecklet eggs. Oh, here we go again. This first vent ended up being a carbon dioxide vent. That is just as useless as its slightly prettier cousin, the hydrogen vent. And this one did end up being the iron volcano, which means it's cycle 47, and we still have not found the source of water yet. I was hoping with the geoactive, we'd have 3, 4, maybe 5 sources of water, because there's oil on this planet to wait, and I want to do things like petroleum boilers. Right now we have 6 tons of sand, so I could start using water sieve, but that wouldn't be very sustainable, so I'd rather not do it. But if worse comes to worse, we will, and I'll start tapping into all this polluted water. We finally have branch growth coming on these trees, so it is time to enable our grooming station. And then we're going to start doing a little bit of pip math so that we can work out how many duplicants we're going to be able to support with pip egg omelets. To start off with, we need to look at the pip reproduction, which is 17% per cycle. That number should sort of ring a bell. And the reason why is because it's the same as hatch math. 100% divided by 17% is 5.88. In other words, a pip will lay an egg every 5.88 cycles. Well, we know they live for 100 cycles. So we can take 95 cycles because remember, for 5 of the 100 cycles, they're a baby pip and can't lay eggs. But we take the 95 and we divide it by 5.88 and we're given 16.15 eggs. Well, we subtract 1 egg because that's the 1 egg that's going into the incubator to replace that pip when it dies, and we're left with 15.15. Well, you can't lay a 0.15 of an egg, so we know that each pip in the ranch will contribute 15 eggs during its lifetime, or over 100 cycles. This ranch can hold 8 critters, so we know we have 8 times 15 eggs every 100 cycles, gives us 120 eggs. When we head over here to our egg cracker, we can see that 1 pip egg will turn into 1600 calories of raw egg. And then that 1600 calories worth of raw egg is going to turn into 2800 calories worth of omelets. So the raw egg calorie count doesn't really matter, but the 120 eggs does. So we can take that 120 eggs and multiply it times the 2800 calories, and we're given 336,000 calories. Remember though, this is over the course of 100 cycles, so we divide 336,000 by 100, and we're going to get 3,360 calories per cycle. Or another way to look at it is, this pip ranch on pip omelets will be able to provide enough food for 3.3 duplicants. So I can get rid of at least 3 duplicants worth of mealwood, and probably a little bit more on top of it. The last thing we need to do is make sure the incubators are both set on a 6, and that way our egg cracker is still on a 5, and then we hit forever on the pip eggs. Well, we haven't found any water yet, but our duplicants have oxygen, a nice place to sleep, and even some delicious omelets to put into their belly. A quick channel update, I'm going on a small vacation, so this is going to be the only video that you see this week. Fear not though, my vacation isn't too long, and I will have the standard 2 videos for you in the week following. Let me know what you think about the colony so far in the comments below. And until next time, much love, happy gaming, and I'll talk to you soon.